Your daily maintenance routine can influence whether a lip forms. Make sure your nail drag goes no deeper than a ½ inch. This will assure you do not have excessive loose material that can be easily pushed to the turf edge. Adjusting the weight of your nail drag depending upon current conditions will help you maintain a consistent dragging depth of 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Using a top dressing is also recommended and is easier to maintain compared with just straight soil on your infield skin.
Okay, so some of you people are going to have the luxury of having a dedicated grooming piece of equipment, the three-wheeled groomers that are sold out on the market. But a lot of you will either have homemade nail boards, or you'll have purchased the nail boards such as this one. And when building those nail boards, the one thing you want to remember is that you want to build them light so that you can add weight. If you build it really heavy, the problem is it's going to dig too deeply into the infield soil. Remember we talked earlier about we're only trying to spike down 1/4 to a ½ inch. Well, if you have a really heavy unit, it's going to go deeper than you want it to, and you're going to get too much. You're going to loosen up too much of the infield. So, with the nail board, you want to make sure it's light enough that you can always add more weight if you need to go deeper. But you don't want to build it too heavy where it's going to go deeply all the way without even putting any weight on it. With the units that are dedicated units, like the three-wheel groomers, those have hydraulic adjustments that you can adjust how deep or how shallow you can cut. So this particular board is a lightweight nail drag, and you see here we've got these 7-pound weights here that we can add on as we need to adjust for the depth of cut that we want to do for that particular day, depending on the soil conditions. The harder the infield gets, the more weights we can add. We can add up to 4 weights on each side of this, and at 7 pounds a piece, that's 28 pounds per side. We can add over 50 pounds of weight to this if we have to. Rarely have we ever had to do that. Typically, we get up to 2 weights here, and that's about all we need.
Manually dragging the areas near your turf edge is the best way to control that material. By using a hand drag, you can stay 6 or more inches away from the edge with your tractor when float dragging the infield. Staying further away from the edge with the tractor means you'll have plenty of room and push less material onto the turf edge.
Before dragging the entire infield, I want to make sure I'm not going to have to bring my drag so close to the edges and possibly bring top dressing material and infield soil and throw it into the grass edges. One way to prevent my tractor from coming so close is by hand dragging or using a cocoa mop and getting a portion of this infield skin groomed right up against the grass edge so I don't have to come so close. In this situation, I'm using just a little 4-foot wide screen drag, and I'm just going to drag along here and get this edge all groomed so that I don't have to bring that tractor closer. One of the biggest problems we have with lips forming is that the people who are dragging the field sometimes get too close to that edge trying to get it with the tractor, where you have a lot less control. By doing it manually like this, I have a lot more control over where the edge of my drag is, and I don't worry as much about bringing material up and being thrown into the grass edges.
By slowing down when you're float dragging your infield, you'll reduce the amount of material that is tossed towards the turf edge. By going slow and staying at least 6 inches from the turf edge, you'll reduce the amount of material the drag will grab and displace. Remember to go especially slow when turning. Going slow will not only help prevent the buildup of lips, it will also make sure you don't create a bowl effect over time from displacing material from the center of the infield. A bowl effect will cause the infield to hold water and create puddling and drainage problems. We've talked a lot about not pushing extra material towards the outer grass edges of your infield. But there is another factor that will work against you: infield slope. Most infields will be sloped towards these outer edges for better drainage. Whenever it rains, water will run off the infield, taking with it some infield soil and top dressing. High winds, especially in the winter, can have the same effect. To balance this natural migration, you'll need to periodically pull material away from the turf edge with a level board or lute scarifier. How often depends how windy or rainy it's been.
Another event that tends to help build up lips on the edges is when you get a heavy rain, especially on the back edge or the back arc of the infield. As most infields typically are sloped from the mound down towards the back of the infield. When we get a heavy enough rain, it'll be enough to move that soil. You can't see it happening, but anytime it rains on this infield, water is helping soil and top dressing to move back towards the edge. So what happens is you get a buildup of top dressing or material in the back here. You can see there's a pretty good amount back here. So what you want to do on a periodic basis, depending on the frequency of how often you might get some heavy rains, you might want to come back and take some of this material and pull it back and pull it towards the front. Otherwise, what's going to happen is this material is going to continue to migrate back into your lips and build up your back edge lips much more quickly. And it's the back edge lips that are the most dangerous of all, not from a ball player's perspective, but from your perspective as far as drainage is concerned, is because as these lips build up, they're going to impede the flow of water off of that infield. And we want that water to get off that infield as quickly as possible. So we keep these lips under control and stop this material from building up in the back by pulling it back out, just like this.
All right, it's time to review. That's everything you need to know for managing lips. Try the pop quiz to make sure you retain the important points. And it would be a good idea to review previous sections as well before moving on to a new lesson.